the demand is increasing, the supply is not. I think that this will be a central theme as we move forward, as more and more people wake up.
This is Dunnigan Kaiser, founder of Liberty and Finance. I'm now a licensed gold and silver broker for Miles Franklin. Call me directly for the physical gold and silver that you need at the best price with personalized private service from one of the oldest and best companies in the business. For fastest service, just call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 888-81-LIBERTY. And either I or one of my sons and fellow brokers will call you back as soon as we can and understand your needs. Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're here for your weekly market update with Miles Franklin, Precious Metals CEO Andy Schectman. Today is Tuesday, June 1st. It's June already, 2021. Andy, thanks for coming back on.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be here, Dunnigan. Time just keeps rolling by. It's crazy how fast it goes.
Well, it's not fair this time because usually it's a week between your visits here for the weekly market update, but we just had you in for a special hot news story on Saturday about the U.S. Mint acknowledging a global silver shortage. If we could start there, for those who missed it, what was that about? And secondly, those people, go look at the video. We'll put a link to it in the description of this video. But also, what additional information has unfolded since then about this silver shortage or the fact of mint shortages in general?
Yeah, well, the U.S. Mint said that the demand for silver remains greater than the supply, and that they are going to stop the pre-ordering of their new Morgan silver dollars, and that they used it really as a justification, I guess, as to why they're not able to deliver the way that they're supposed to. And as we had talked about, the U.S. Mint started allocating or rationing gold buffaloes and gold eagles the second week in January. 2021 has been a tough year for the U.S. Mint to keep up with demand. Whether there's something hidden underneath all of this or not, I'll leave that up to people's own speculation. But all I can tell you is that getting product out of the U.S. Mint, of all the six major mints, maybe has been the most challenging, which is unusual, almost as unusual as to see them come out and acknowledge a global silver shortage, which is something that I would certainly not expect to see coming out of the U.S. Mint. And it follows part and parcel with everything we've talked about for a long time, that the demand is increasing, the supply is not. And I think that this will be a central theme as we move forward, as more and more people wake up to alternatives to traditional investing, as alternatives to a dollar, which, is certainly, it's about this close from hitting support, and I think it's about 0.25% off from its support and key support level, where it had bounced two previous occasions. One was in early 2018, I think, and the other one was early this year in January, where it touches that support level and bounces back. If we can break through that, then the dollar has a lot of room to fall. So I guess when you talk about lately about the interest rates falling back a little bit after surging, when you talk about inflation fears, there are reasons to be looking to precious metals that people are starting to become aware of. And that's when we start to see more and more problems with supply, especially the U.S. Mint, because most people in this country immediately are going to go to U.S. Mint products, with the only caveat to that is that the premiums are so high that I think people are a little bit concerned about buying items that are trading at such a strong premium above the price of gold and silver. The question is it fair value? Is it a good price to pay in an environment where finding price discovery has been so challenging? Not sure how to answer that. And again, because there are other items from different mints trading at better prices, but there are a lot of people who believe that if the U.S. government were ever to confiscate gold again and silver, and some people do believe that U.S. mint products would be immune to that legislation as they are currency of the realm. And there are people that I respect in this industry who believe that as well. So no right or wrong answer to any of this, but simply to say that the U.S. mint, I guess, in a nutshell, has been the model of inefficiency as it pertains to getting product out to the people who want it this year.
I wanted to underscore a couple of things you touched on there. One is the dollar. You talked about the dollar's decline. We've had multiple guests on talking about that. Specifically, Alistair McLeod has been on over the past half a year saying people need to adjust their thinking. They need to quit thinking about metals and markets and house prices and all these assets going up. They need to think about this as, he says, when all the commodities are appearing to go up at the same time, you need to realize it's the currency itself that's being debased and declining rapidly in volume. And when people grasp that, there'll be this scramble. That's the Austrian economics crack-up boom, where everybody scrambles to buy anything that's real and to get out of the cash trash that they've been holding on to. A lot of us, people who've been either selling properties, we sold our home a little over a year ago, still looking, if we had our money sitting in the bank, which we don't because convinced my wife that we should put it in real money for storage. But anyway, that idea that having a lot of money sitting around in a bank account really is not money, and it's really not yours. So you don't have access to it. You don't have guaranteed that you aren't subject to multiple counterparty risks. We had the Aiden sisters on from the Aiden forecast, and they talked about they're seeing a continuing downtrend in the dollar for an extended period of time. So that underscores all that you said. The other thing that I just wanted to underscore one time more is about the exact wording of the U.S. Mint statement about the global silver shortage and how it's connected to this demand for their products. They said the global silver shortage is driving demand, and it's like if you just zoom in on that and just slow down and say, what are they saying? First of all, they're acknowledging that there's a global silver shortage, and secondly, in order for something to drive demand, it means it has to be known by enough people that it's in the mindset of the people, so people are aware of it to the extent to which they're starting to do like a run on the mint and go after this stuff. So it's like by the time you've been talking to us forever about the most knowledgeable, the commercial banks, the central banks, sovereign wealth funds, and everybody pulling record amounts of metals off the exchanges and so on quietly and using misdirection. But if it finally becomes where you can no longer not mention it, and they finally have to mention it, and they say, oh, by the way, yeah, that shortage, well, it's causing a run on the mint. That seems to be really the last stage before everybody catches on, if anybody's paying attention.
Yeah, and it's funny because the powers that be always throw little crumbs of evidence. See, we told you, you didn't listen. And, whether you're talking about the initial Basel III or the IMF asking for a new Bretton Woods or any of these really seminal moments that they don't want to broadcast loudly, they'll mention it and they can point back to it. See, the U.S. Mint told you there was a silver shortage and that there was tremendous demand, and that's why they couldn't come up with the product. Whether that's true or not, it seems backwards to me that the silver shortage has driven demand. It would seem that the demand had driven the silver shortage, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. I guess you take away from it that, the top of the food chain is saying, yeah, there's a shortage and that there's massive demand and that we can't keep up. Which, I deep down, I kind of feel is disingenuous, but I guess that remains to be seen. And, when we are talking about all of these events that keep happening, like asset prices going to the moon and commodity prices at all-time highs and people selling houses at all-time highs and bidding over asking and all, people are more preoccupied with high prices and high valuations, and they're not taking a step back and realizing what that really means. Our currency is losing value precipitously. Moving down here to Florida, still kind of living out of boxes. We've gone out to dinner a few times, and you can't get out for under $150 for 2 or 3 people anywhere. It's inflation is here, and it's starting to show itself, and people haven't realized that yet. I like to use the analogy of a gold coin sitting on the ledge of a bathtub, and the water underneath it is the value of the currency. The gold coin doesn't move. It sits on the ledge. It's what happens to the water underneath it. And you pull the plug on the bathtub and the water starts to drain. Gold isn't getting more expensive. It's the currency underneath it that is losing value. And that's really where we're at right now, where gold is the barometer, the measurement, the measuring stick of the health of the currency. And when you see the amount of money that is being created right now, and the effects that it's having by pushing interest rates low, stabilizing the bond market for as long as they can. I mean, to push the short end right now on the treasuries are on the 2-year treasury are like, I don't know, 15 or 20 basis points. Who in their right mind would be buying these things with inflation running many times that? So we're getting to that moment. We're about ready to cross that Rubicon where the Fed has no choice but to continue to monetize and buy the back end of the bond and to keep things calm until they no longer are calm. So we can talk about Basel III, and we can talk about big banks buying gold, and we can talk about all of these reasons. But look, the bottom line to me is that the dollar ultimately is in big trouble. And if you look at what's going on right now, Dunnigan, in Asia and China, you're seeing massive amounts of gold being delivered. In the Chinese market, 40.2 tons were delivered to China and another 10 tons to Hong Kong. And now the Russian National Wealth Fund has just been given the go-ahead to buy gold. So you have China and Russia going at it again, accumulating copious amounts of gold. The big money is using this environment to continue to de-dollarize and continue to buy gold and silver. I think you have to take a step back and realize it. And also realize one thing, as we talked about these asset prices going to the moon, people are, for whatever reason, now think because of cryptocurrencies and also irrational equity markets that markets are supposed to go just like that, but it doesn't work that way. Oftentimes I look at gold and silver as the tortoise, not the hare. And the hare is the one that gets noticed, but at the end of the race, the tortoise wins. And if you look at gold, last week was its highest weekly close since November. And, silver closed at its highest weekly close since last July or August, I believe. And gold has now erased its $225 drop since the year end. And in fact, it's up 14% since its April low. And silver's up $1.50 from its year end close. So, it was very easy to notice that gold had got smacked and had fallen by a couple $100 after the new year. But here we are, the tortoise slid by everyone, and it's already up in positive territory again. Slow, steady accumulation by the big money is slowly starting to push the price up, but they don't want it to gain too much attention. It's the old story of the frog being thrown into a pot of boiling water. If that happens, it jumps out. But if you put it in and slowly turn up the heat, the frog falls asleep and dies. And I think that's what's happening here. People are being blinded, misdirected again by high valuations in their assets, in their home. And they're okay with that right now, not realizing what that really means, that we're seeing inflation and a debasement of the currency. And gold is slowly starting to show us that, and silver, as it emerges from its 15-point drop at the beginning of the year. And here we are up again in positive territory. So remember, it's slow and steady. And you wake up one day, it's like, whoa, how did the Dow Jones, how did the price of gold outperform the S&P over the last 20 years? Slow and steady, not catch everyone's attention. And I think that's what we'll continue to see until it reaches that point where it slingshots. But anyways, I think when you see the biggest money in the world doing this, and especially Asia and Russia, I think it portrays for much higher prices moving forward, and not real good, I think, in terms of an omen for the future value of the dollar.
Yeah, just yesterday, my son Elijah Johnson, who's also now a host on our channel, interviewed Steve Penny from silverchartist.com, and Steve Penny talked about exactly what you're describing. He said every month for the past 8 months, gold has outperformed the stock market, and yet you don't hear people talking about that. Everybody's watching the major indices, but they're not watching gold because they aren't realizing yet that it's been outperforming. And we have a couple of questions before we can get to our weekly special. We have a couple of quick questions for you. During that chat last night on that premiere of Steve Penny's interview, we had a viewer said, if you're going to talk to Andy tomorrow, please ask him what he thinks the immediate impacts will be that people should watch for in the next month of Basel III. Are you expecting to see anything that you can attribute to Basel III, or do you feel like the biggest impact of that has been the related front-running of that, which was the draining of the physical metals prior to now so that there's less available for investment demand?
I mean, to me, you can talk about all of the Basel III regulations regarding the reserve requirements. To me, the biggest rule change is that the banks will no longer be subject to, or they will no longer be able to do the same overt manipulation. And we're mostly pointing to the UK and the US banks because they cannot count unallocated gold towards their position limits and or offsetting their allocated positions. In other words, they just it's the unallocated gold and the ability to count it as 100% that has given the banks the ability to manipulate the price. And if you pull that peg out, where the unallocated gold is now not able, so it's still counted on their balance sheets at 85%, but it is not counted against their positions. And so that's a big, big, big deal. They would have to have 85% equity behind these positions where they used to basically have to have none. And so I think that the removal of the unallocated gold in regards to their positions on COMEX and right now on the London Metals Exchange, on COMEX later in the year, is extraordinary. And really what it will do, I believe, is neuter the ability of the bullion banks to push the price around with impunity. I guess we'll have to see. And I don't know that we'll see it immediately after the 28th, but I think it has a very, very big deal. I wouldn't look to the 29th as being the springboard, but I would simply say that the banks have really no real incentive any longer when it can bankrupt them if they have to have all of that equity behind those limits. So the two things that I take away from Basel III is its reclassification of gold as a tier 1 reserve and the removal of the unallocated gold, which should very, very substantially inhibit and limit the ability of the banks to naked short and to push the price around the way that they've done with great success for a very long time.
The other question we had from viewers is about trackability or traceability of metals. People are aware that the U.S. Mint has been retooling for switching over to Type 2 American Eagles. The Canadian Mint has been touting for several years this bullion DNA or Mint bullion DNA. People are concerned, are there existing coins out there that they should be aware of that contain an embedded computer chip? If not, what is, and it looked like what I was looking at, it's a high resolution imagery that's being saved on servers that can be looked up, kind of like a fingerprint of your picture of your coins. But can you please clarify for people traceability of existing bullion or the likelihood or the fact of whether that's expected in the next generation?
No, there's no traceability of any bullion. And that's really one of the benefits of owning it is that you buy it, you put it away, and it's gone forever. It's off the grid, and there's nothing illegal or nefarious about that. That is the law. What the U.S. Mint did, it had something to do with the edges, the ridges. They have a certain type of a cut on the edges now that will inhibit counterfeiting. In the case of the Canadian Mint, they use the micro engraving, a tiny, tiny little maple leaf that is on there. So no, they're not microchips put in there. If there were, no one would buy them. So when you talk about anonymity, gold is really, and silver, one of the only things out there that give you that true privacy and anonymity. There are no microchips in the new Gold Eagles. It just has to do with the reeded edges, and that's what they are using now to implement anti-counterfeiting technology. So. Good question. I think that would be the death knell for any mint that decided to do that in this industry. Most of the people in this industry, I would argue, are not right-wing fanatical. They're libertarians. They just want to be left alone. They want to work hard. They want to be able to do what they do in the privacy of their own home. They want little government, and they don't want it to be spied upon. So if that were the case, no one would ever buy it. So no microchip in the new gold or silver Eagles.
Well, that brings us to today's weekly special. People look forward to that every week from you. Can you let us know what's available that you're going to be offering?
Yeah, so we have two coins. We have one that everyone recognizes and one that is a new one that I really like, and I bought them for a specific reason. The first one are the 2021 Maples. Everyone recognizes those. It's interesting, Dunnigan, the premiums on the North American coins far exceed those of the counterparts on the other side of the Atlantic. With the U.S. Mint, being at all-time highs on their Silver Eagles, the Canadian Mint is still, on a percentage basis, a good deal lower, but as it relates to what they've always been, pretty strong. And before I give you the price, I just want people to understand that I'm going to stay consistent. I don't see premiums coming down. I see more and more interest in this industry. I see mints that are struggling to keep up with demand. And I see a lot of money out there that will wake up to the lack of alternatives, especially now that you see Biden wants to do this capital gains deal at 44%, and it's actually retroactive to last year. So I could see people pulling out of the markets now and looking for a place to put their money. Why he would want to do that is anyone's guess, but I can see people looking for a safe place to put money where there's still great value. And I find that in silver, maybe more so than any other asset on the planet. And I think you'll see premiums rise, especially when you start to see a sampling of the mainstream jump on board. So anyways, the Maples right now at $6.75 over for 2021 Maples. I believe will be as good of a price as you'll find anywhere in the United States, albeit I wish people would have listened to me last year and could have bought them at $2.89 over. But that's just the way that it goes. And but at $6.75, I'm very confident that we will not be undersold. I also have some 2021 Armenian Noah's Ark coins. Now, these are made by perhaps my favorite mint, and that is the Geiger Mint in Germany. Geiger makes some of the coolest bars I've ever seen in my life. They're square. They have a hologram in them. They come embedded in a square plastic capsule. They're just phenomenal. They're museum quality, beautiful. And the boxes that they come in are you'd want to show them. The boxes are so neat. They're wood boxes with a crest stamped on it. They're the most unusual looking presentation I've ever seen in gold and silver. Well, the Geiger Mint, on behalf of the Armenian government, made these Noah's Ark coins, 2021s. They're fantastic. They come in the same presentation box, tubes of 20, 25 tubes of 20. The mint box alone is world class. It's really, really cool. I guess in some analogies, if you really want to think out there, you could argue that the flood is coming, and Noah's Ark, we all need to get aboard the Ark. Well, what is the Ark? Maybe it's silver altogether, and gold as a way to protect us from the flood, the tsunami of inflation that's coming. And anyways, these new Noah's Ark coins are really cool, and you don't have to buy a whole box. Those are going to be 6 1/4 over spot, and any quantity, and I just love them. And one last thing for you rock and rollers out there, you can see behind me, I love music, always have, and I just bought a whole bunch of, from the Royal Mint in the United Kingdom. We'll have them next week. That'll hopefully be next week's special. Brand new coins that are, they're the Who. The Who, the rock band from the UK, the Who, they are, portraying the Who. And I saw them and I fell in love with them. So I just bought a bunch of those gold and silver coins. We'll have those next week. But until then, the Noah's Ark and the Maples, what I believe will be the best price in the country, just for your listeners, Dunnigan. And again, I really love these Tuesday brief updates, and I try hard to find things that are unique and also price affordable. Try to make it the best price in the country out of appreciation for your listeners and for you. And that's all I got today, just to say that things keep rolling along faster and faster and faster. And they seem to be getting a little bit more crazy under the surface. So I think adding a little gold and silver when you can, especially if it's a good deal and especially if it's something unique and interesting, is a good way and a good analogy looking at Noah's Ark. The flood is coming, and just we don't know what that flood looks like. But buying gold and silver right now, in my opinion, give you that life raft, give you that ark. Whether it's inflation or deflation or a depression or hyperinflation or hyperstagflation, it doesn't matter. You need gold and silver. You need to mitigate your exposure to a dollar, which is coming under real pressure, and I don't see that ending anytime soon.
Yeah, that's certainly the DNA of our channel. Our platform is helping people to be aware and prepared. We are very concerned, and have been for over 8 years here, that people need to make definite preparations for economic risk that is not just a risk anymore. It's a real and present. The destruction of the dollar has already been happening in front of our eyes, and it's exhibiting in ways that are only just starting to be acknowledged. This is one more official acknowledgement, the silver shortage, and we're going to have several guests on in the near future talking about the pivot to real acknowledgement of inflation, including Gregor Mannarino and Michael Pinto later today. So just thank you, Andy, as always, for joining us here, giving us an inside peek inside the silver and gold supply chain, and for being here on the behalf of all of our audience. I just thank you for your presence here on Liberty and Finance.
Likewise, and do me a favor, tell both of those guys they're two of my favorite commentators. I never miss anything that either of them put out. Michael Pinto is a genius, and Gregor is someone I'd like to sit down and chat with for an afternoon over lunch. So give them both my regards. Tell them I'm a big fan, and of you too, Dunnigan. Keep up the great work. It's awesome to listen to you and the people you have on. And I personally find it, whether I was in this industry or not, I would listen to everything you put out, because you're certainly not getting it from the mainstream, as you and I talked about earlier today. And you're providing an education to people, a free college level education that I, for one, don't miss an episode. So thanks again. Have a great rest of your week. And of course, if something crazy happens again this week, I'll be happy to jump on. Otherwise, I'll look forward to seeing you Tuesday.
Yeah, and about half the time, guys, when that happens, it's because one of our subscribers has alerted me either by a call or a text or an email that said, hey, this is happening. Is this real? Check this out. Can you talk about this? So people, don't be bashful about reaching out if you hear something that's important that people need to know about. And we've been warned by multiple of our subscribers that, we've been starting to publish like same day or every single day of the week. We publish 7 times a week now rather than the old 2 or 3 or 4 that we used to do. And we've even done some live streaming broadcasts. That's probably going to have to be necessary to happen more and more often as things accelerate. As we're getting into this hockey stick part of the, whether it's the crack up boom or the destruction of the dollar, whatever you want to look at it as, we're all going to need to be helping each other out, because there's a lot of people out there who haven't heard. Everybody spread the word. Forward this video to as many of your family, friends, neighbors, coworkers as you can, and make sure you sign up at libertyandfinance.com. Go over in the left-hand margin, put your name and an email address, get on our free newsletter so you don't miss a single episode. Andy, thanks for joining us here on Liberty and Finance.
Thank you, Dunnigan. And by the way, I love those live streams, and I'm always willing to jump on a live stream Q&A. Those are fun and engaging. So thanks for having me. Stay well, Dunnigan, and I know we'll talk real soon.
Take care.
See you, buddy.
This is Dunnigan Kaiser, founder of Liberty and Finance. I'm now a licensed gold and silver broker for Miles Franklin. Call me directly for the physical gold and silver that you need at the best price with personalized private service from one of the oldest and best companies in the business. 31 years strong, A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, 0 complaints, licensed and bonded. For physical delivery, vault storage, or precious metals IRAs, excellent prices, privacy, and confidentiality. Pay by check, money order, ACH, bank wire, or Bitcoin. Satisfaction guaranteed. For fastest service, just call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 888-81-LIBERTY. And either I or one of my sons and fellow brokers will call you back as soon as we can and understand your needs.